Um, oh shit, hold up. Crispy is here, I think, somewhere. Let me search for your name. Fuck.
Yo, I would love to be a strip club and a DJ in a strip club. If anyone's hiring, hit me up. I will only work nights. Yeah, well, it sounds much better now that I figured out how to use Zoom. Before I was blaming my internet, but it was just because I had the wrong input. So I had my microphone plugged in and everything. And we figured that out a couple weeks ago, though. So we've been cooking since. Yeah, Patty, while you're typing your shit up, I'm gonna go with Scott's. I know you use Lambda at open to choose strikes, but it's still useful throughout the day to see which strike will have the best movement. In theory, sure. I wasn't necessarily using it today in my analysis. But it's not gonna hurt anything. I wouldn't rely on it as heavily. Like as I do in the morning, just because later on in the day you'll notice that a lot of the strikes kind of start to flatten out, so there's not as much as a an obvious one to choose. Excuse me. But I mean it math is math all the time, right? So regardless of what time of day it is, it should still function in the same way in theory. One thing to think about though is later on in the day, often those lambda strikes are pretty far out of the money, like those really high exposure lambda strikes. And I know Geo uses them kind of like opposite the way I do. Um, but those higher lambda strikes that I look for to scalp off of in the morning, later on in the day, they're going to be 20, 30, 40 points away from spot. And even if you get, a 15, 20 point move, theta's really working against you at that point, as well as having pretty much zero delta on the contract. So it'll be a long shot for those to hit, in my opinion.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Yo,
You're
what up, Crispy? But I mean, if you have, for example, if you have like today, I was aiming for like 15 to 25, ideally 20, 25. If I had seen, I was in tens and 15s. If I had seen, something on like '05, for example, as being a higher lambda than 10, that might have been a tip to, hey, spend a little bit more money, buy a little less cons on the fives instead of grabbing tens, which probably would have helped me. So,
um starting to understand why Geo prefers to trade afternoons 5200 and stand out as a magnet until 12 EST. Seems to really clear up the likely price action. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, exactly. I kind of like to let the data digest itself, and then towards the end of the day, I'll take a pretty easy either short or long, typically, at least if I'm talking about when I just started. Nowadays, I'm I like to say I'm retired, but I'm not. But something of similar of that in that regard. But uh yeah, definitely waiting till end of the day is probably the best approach. If you're looking for high probability, setups and shit.
It
And
also
not to
costs me a
mention,
lot less.
yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, not to mention lower risk.
Um, After 3 p.m., what is a good step-by-step analysis that you look for? So actually, I was in the middle of making the newsletter for Thursday. I missed Monday or Sundays, but that was due to Easter and me not being coherent at the end of the night. But um basically, I'm going to send out a newsletter with a literal three-step process on how to enter and target a certain magnet point on a single trade. And it's something that I'm sure Fatty has used some variation of in the past, and I currently use now. So, um, I think that's going forward. Like some of the newsletters aren't going to be analysis based, and some of them are going to be more geared towards an actual strategy that you can use on the dashboard. I think that helps people a lot more. And it's been tested by people, and pretty high probability chances of all these strategies working out. And that's kind of where I think I'm going to start going with the newsletter. Analysis is great, but if you're one of those people that has like paralysis of analysis, a lot of those people don't know how to take action on specific trades, and that's why building a strategy is great for that. If I can show you a certain strategy built around our dashboard, then you can I guess consume the future analysis a lot better, knowing what I'm actually talking about and shit. Um,
Yeah,
so
I mean, I'm gonna step in real quick too on that if that's cool, Gio.
yeah.
I mean, this kind of goes back to what Gio and I were saying. In my mind, you can break down the data into two possible trades. It starts with, are we in negative gamma or are we in positive gamma? If we're in positive gamma, excuse me, and we've, been slowly pushing up and, we've been buying dips, but then selling rips. So it's just been kind of like a slow, steady uptrend all day. I will wait until I see the skew turn negative, generally on raw, and then hope for the largest AOI on delta adjust, or look for the highest AOI on delta adjust to be below where price is. And then, once that skew turns negative, I'll look to play that mean reversion trade. And so I'd be, looking at puts if we're in positive gamma, generally speaking. If we are in negative gamma, 3 p.m. comes slap calls. Today was a perfect example of that. I did not get the follow through that I was expecting. Charm wasn't really cooperating, and maybe there definitely could have been just a fat seller on futures who just didn't really give a shit about any of this and was just nonstop selling. I don't know the reasoning why we didn't get the follow through exactly. Um,
Haters, bro. Haters.
that too. Um, or it was just Geo sitting on futes, just sell, 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 sell. Uh, but yeah, so then in negative gamma, literally just wait till around 3 p.m. That's when a majority of delta is gonna have fallen off of all the puts that were sold by dealers. The
Mhm.
puts the puts that those dealers sell mean that they have to take the, opposing delta trade, which would be short shares. So as those puts stay out of the money, the deltas slowly drop and dealers start slowly buying back those shares they initially sold short, which creates that chain reaction that you'll hear Geo talk about sometimes. So as they buy more shares, puts more put strikes out of the money, and as that happens, they buy back more shares, and so on and so forth, and we get those end of day gamma squeezes, or neg gamma squeezes, excuse me.
Super econ. So I have pretty much a 5K account. There's really one of two ways that you can approach it. I mean, the ideal scenario, which is something I struggle with myself, is to buy a good amount of contracts. You want to be able to trim your position and secure the win. Or if you're gonna size light and take a small amount of contracts, you gotta have the discipline to take profit, honestly. Especially in the current market, we like today, we're just not getting the follow through. I mean, I had a 52-10 call that went 150% and ended up going pretty much to zero because it didn't give me the follow through. So you just gotta have either the discipline to take profit when you see it at a good amount and at a reasonable amount, or you have to, buy multiple contracts and you got to risk a decent amount of that account in order to do that. Um, I've asked Gio that question before. He's gonna tell you, he would probably just full port an account like that on a good play.
Uh,
Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, you're not completely wrong. With that kind of account size, I'm pretty comfortable sizing in full on a position. Um, but if that was all I had, it would be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So for example, if I was all I had, I would definitely probably take the risk on some naked call or put options, but um
Wait till the end of the day, man. I mean, with an account
Mm-hmm.
that size, you can do a lot more damage at the end of the day. You're going to be
yeah,
Absolutely.
working multiple contracts, and you're going to be able to have a position that's only, for $500, which is 10% of the account. You can have a position with up to 10 contracts, 7 to 10. So wait till the end of the day.
yeah, I could also kind of like if you're trying to devise a strategy for a small portfolio, I would say end of the day straddles are pretty good. If you're getting a large move and you're uh trying to account for a large move that's probably going to happen at the end of the day, again based on your own analysis. If that's the case, then you can compound small gains on the account until you're able to start taking a little bit more of an educated guess, I guess, on a day-to-day basis in the market. So like something that I'm working on currently is like a 0 point Vana or a Vana flip point entry uh into like a price target of a large amount of outstanding delta adjusted gamma exposure. That's what you'll see in the newsletter in a few days, but um that's kind of like a pretty simple strategy for a low amount of capital. Um, that and that's kind of what I have in mind going into like the newsletters now. It's just what would I do if I had a smaller portfolio and how would I grow that? So those are some simple ways. I don't know if I'm going to include a specific strategy like what contracts and what types of spreads to take. Maybe I'll give like a recommendation list or something at the end of what you could probably take on a strategy like this. But again, we're kind of getting into the realm of like signaling and I fucking I don't know if I want to go down that route. So we'll see
And
though.
also, I mean, so two more things. Spreads. I mean, I know Gio's working on a class with Dad about spreads.
Mhm.
That's something that a lot of people use to, minimize the risk that they're taking on a play. With the exposures, we can see direction. And going into the question about Alejandro, I don't know if Alejandro's here, but I mean, if you guys have the tools, we get spoiled and we start looking, for these 500%, 1,000% plays. But the reality is, you guys have the tools to regularly see where you can get a very decent 20%, 30% move. And if you're comfortable with that and you feel good about scalping, then you absolutely can capitalize that with the data. Alejandro uses the data essentially, and he pretty much looks for the levels, has confluence in the levels, and when it hits that level, he takes the profit that he can get. It's just a matter of how ambitious you want to be with your targets.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people have questions on like entry methods, because it's pretty easy to define a target and where you think price action is going to go. And defining an entry seems to be the issue for a lot of different people. So I was talking about this with someone earlier today about the dashboard isn't supposed to take away from your current system, it's supposed to add to your current system of trading. And I think a lot of people overlook that and they see, me trade with just the dashboard, which is possible, but you don't need to. If you have a current system that works for you and you've been using it for a long time, um, adding exposures, certain exposures, is only supposed to add to that system, not really break it down and remove this part that's not exactly a good entry method or something. But like again, any system has a good entry point and a good exit point. Um, Something that we have on one of the algorithms is when a Vana specific strike hits a max 20 delta for that strike price as a point of entry. I don't really want to go too much into how that works, but if you've read anything, that like it's there in our Discord, like that information's
Yeah,
there.
Sheen's talked about it a lot on his classes as well. The point two, point eight.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what we use as a point of entry, but um again, it sometimes it's like too much for people to be stalking the chain all day long. You have a job or whatever. Um it's not a horrible method to just, use your own system to entry. And keep in mind that the target's most likely going to be the largest outstanding delta gamma exposure there. So whether it's fucking entry off of VWAP or fucking whatever else you use.
Mhm.
Um, if entry's like your only like issue right now, there's plenty of entry methods. It's just kind of developing your own strategy, right? That's the whole point of this dashboard in the first place, to help traders develop their own system of trading
Hmm.
and add to it, not take from it. So, if you had a certain system that you use to entry, whether it's price action based or another indicator, feel free to use that as an entry with going into it knowing, where the price target's going to be most likely. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah.
for me, I used to struggle with entries as well. Honestly, I still do. I think that's probably my weakest uh I don't know, points of my trading is entries. But that's where, I kind of tapped Geo and was like, yo, how do I like convince myself on getting in? And it was basically like, think about it like a sports bet, wait till the cons you think will be $5 in the money costs what you're willing to throw away. So like for me, that's around 150 to $1. So whenever I see a strike that I think will hit five in the money and it costs $1, uh, take it. You know what I mean? Like it's not even really about exactly where price action is, although you can, in my opinion, use Vanna pretty religiously for entries. It's more about what the contract for me costs at this point, more so than it is about anything else. So it's kind of like a risk-based entry more so than it is a, time or price-based entry.
Going back to that question on the bottom and 5,200. I mean, we dropped below 5,200 and we kept going down. I think we got as low as what, 84. At that point, there really wasn't too much exposure below 75, I think it was. I mean, I know a lot of us were waiting for 75 to, kind of take a full size entry. But, like we always say, 5 to 10 point buffer. We never really got to that 75 strike, and we were within 10 points of it. I mean, there really was no significant exposure going below that. So that's also a good indicator that at some point we were going to start reversing back upward.
Um, yes. And then like also too, I forgot to mention, uh, like there's like the original ways I learned how to entry in anything were based on volume profile and shit. And basically I would only take um shorts at like a low volume node area into like the absolute amount of outstanding gamma exposure being somewhere below that low volume node, and that would make the difference between the entry point and the either the short down to the absolute outstanding gamma delta gamma exposure. At the time we didn't have delta gamma exposure. I think at the time it was just raw gamma exposure, but
Yeah, it was
um
just.
there's a fucking million different ways you can entry.
I mean, we gave you guys the first class on volume profile.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to use the confluence. I mean, if you see a huge level on Gex and it's lines up with a low volume node, there's a very good chance that the move is going to reverse there. So it's a good entry. It's a good way to pick out entries.
Yeah. What are your systems aside from TL? Um, I mean, my systems are so fucking different. And what I mean by different is I have so like I'm a pretty versatile trader in like what I know, so I kind of enter based on whatever I'm looking at the time, whether it's a fucking fib retrace that I just happen to see or a low volume node I just happen to see. It's not really based on anything solid, which is so hard to like tell people that like when they ask for a structured like strategy or something, and I say this all the time, I don't really have a structure. It's just based on what I know. I've been using so many different things for so long. It's kind of easy to tell when certain things are going to happen, but for the most part, it's all led by the exposures. And recent or not recently, but like I think my lazy way, not lazy, I don't want to call it lazy, that's a bad word, but um the easy way I guess I take for trading is just using exposures only for an entry and exit method, which is again like I mentioned the Vaughn exposure. I tend to look at a lot for entries, and then gamma exposure I tend to look at a lot for targets. Um You'll see it in the newsletter, kind of a simple strategy to use. The more in-depth one is going into the delta of that Vanna strike, and that I don't really want to go crazy into because I don't think it's going to be realistic for you guys to be using it on a day-to-day basis. So I'm gonna leave that one kind of out there, but the info's there if you care enough to see. I'm sure like the Discord search feature is pretty easy to use. Um, but I think I missed a ton of questions while I was explaining. So hold on.
Keep in mind, guys, that as you study things more and more, you're gonna start realizing that a lot of the indicators, a lot of the methods and trading systems that are out there, they're really just different ways of visualizing the same information. So that's one thing
Mhm.
to keep in mind. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. So there's no wrong way to do it. You'll just use it as confluence, though. I mean, I don't want to say that anything is bullshit. Like if you're using it in confluence with the data, you'll be okay. And you can always ask us. I mean, if you have something that you're using and you want to run it by us, I mean, I'm happy to let you know if it's BS or not.
Yeah, certain things just happen to align with each other, and sometimes that's the fucking full porter. I should not be saying that so loosely, as a lot of you guys will actually do that.
Send it to editing.
Uh, let's see. Uh, um,
So Monk, there was let's say that there was a huge liquidity level on Bookmap there. That's also it was an LVN. So that was the start of the low volume node. So there's decent amount of confluence there. You have a because on Bookmap, when you see those liquidity levels, it can either bounce off of it or it can start to fill the orders there and go through. So if you see that line up with an LVN, that's those are things that you can use as confluence, and then plus the gamma level. We were within 10 points of the next gamma level, which wasn't that strong, but it was there. So you got 3 points of confluence there that could have given you an entry to go back up.
all right, I'm gonna pull up an example, I think. Hold on. Another thing is we're in the process of like implementing presets, I think, soon. Uh so like we'll hopefully in the future be able to share setups with each other. Um which is gonna be cool. But um if anyone asks for my fucking setup, it's literally gonna change every single day because it's never the same.
Tom, I'm watching VP on 4 time frames. Well, three actually, on the 15 minute, the 3 minute, and the hourly. And sometimes I have the daily up, but not always.
Yeah, daily's a little tough for like finding entries. It's good for overall looks,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
for tough
exactly.
for finding an entry.
So higher time frame, you just have to you got I mean, yeah, you can say it's a stronger level, but pretty much it also takes a longer time to play out. So
Mhm. Yeah, if you're using it on the daily, I would not be taking 0 day positions.
exactly. I mean, when you see confluence is important, but when you see an LVN line up on three different time frames and you see a gamma level there, that's more. indication that you'll, more confluence.
Mm, let's
Hope you
see
guys
here.
don't hear the baby wailing in the background.
Oh hell yeah. How is Cash, dude?
Cash is good, bro. That's the
That's
new one.
okay.
Cash is watching Dragon Ball Super right now.
Oh, that's my
Hell yeah.
guy. Hell yeah. Uh,
Yeah, so it's good to see the nodes align, the low value nodes, low value nodes aligning up on different time frames.
um,
It doesn't have to line up with a gamma level. I mean, if you have 5200 as the highest Gex level, and we're pushing up, and you're starting to approach a low value node on three different time frames, then maybe you want to play the retrace back to 5200 and using that as the rejection point.
mm, 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 mm. Curious what your guys' outlook on the market is going into the future or the next couple of weeks. I'm pretty long actually now, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say what we want to happen or what we think will happen.
What you think will happen. It's all a what you think will happen scenario.
I'm a
Yeah, I
bull now,
mean,
baby.
yeah, up
I'm a, I'm
only.
a bull until Biden wins the election.
Hmm.
Can you pull up April OpEx flows 419 with raw Gex delta adjusted net and split Vana Vega Delta Charm modules and provide somewhat analysis of what you would plan for it. Yeah, hold on. Give me a
Are you
second.
talking, Patty? Are you talking about? Yeah, it definitely did get lost too. Our bad. Are you talking about just that day or the aggregate data from today until then?
Through.
Just that day. All right.
Oh, just that day? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh my God.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My thoughts exactly.
that's kind of lit.
It is, isn't it? The
Um,
busy OpEx, man.
yeah, there's a lot of shit happening here. This is the first time I've seen Charm positive in a very long time.
Hmm.
Um, number one,
Interesting.
yeah, I'm kind of immediately looking at this as bearish, but the thing is you have to realize going into that day is a lot different from exiting the day of OpEx, right? So for one thing, right, if you're looking at charm exposure for this specific day is going to increase in strength as we get towards that or as the 19th starts coming closer. Um, so a lot of these effects might have a latent effect on the market, where the week after we might actually start seeing the effects of some flows rolling over or some flows completely expiring, either some charm expirations out of the money expiring, in the money expiring, and the different types of effects that those have on the market. So um I would immediately off the top of my head kind of lean short towards the end of the 19th or like the week after the 19th
Hmm.
of OpEx. Um, so that's kind of my initial analysis off of it. But leading into the 19th, I'm pretty long, which can change the outcome of a lot of this stuff by that time. So, that is also something to account for. When you're trying to analyze it, with exposures on a longer term basis, it's kind of, you have to like be checking it as the days come or as
Mhm.
events come actually, right? Because tomorrow,
Mhm.
isn't there like some sort of speaking event going on?
Yeah.
So that can change the dynamics of this, depending on how it affects implied volatility of some of these assets, right? Because if the implied volatility shifts upwards, the deltas also shift, which means that certain assets either need to be sold or purchased back, which is going to change the outcome of what happens on the 19th. So, um, I would
Jesus.
be wary of that. But my initial thought process on this 19th exposure is short. Oh fuck. And that's because charm exposures increasingly positive. There's a significant amount of um gamma exposure towards the downside, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um Vana exposure, especially Vana exposure this large, I'm not saying is going to be a fucking direct magnet by any means, but because obviously that strike is very far away, but
Mhm.
it should have some sort of pull on the overall asset. So that's kind of a few things I would be looking at. Interesting to see delta exposure this high as well, but um
Yeah, dude. If you go on aggregate too,
Oof.
it's massive.
Yeah.
At I believe the same strike you were just looking at for Vanna.
oh yeah.
I don't even want to say it
Okay.
because people are gonna fucking at least if it's making me my pants are getting tighter, but
Hell
but
no.
I just don't I mean maybe this is what it takes for us to actually get a correction. I mean, I've been waiting for a correction since
It's
I
coming.
don't know,
I'm there.
4,800 and here we are at 5,300, 5,200. So
I'm a bull now, so we're gonna go bear now.
all right, that works for me. Once Rumple goes bull is when we know it's really time.
Facts.
Um, Loading the boat starting tomorrow? Nah, brother, nah.
No, it's-
Um, my thing is maintaining discipline. At times I'll trade PM. Do you guys usually trade midday to end of day? Yeah, midday to end of day is like the only times I trade. Pretty much. I don't ever trade the open unless I'm forced to by like someone asking me, "Yo, can you trade the open with me?" And most of the time I'll say no, unless it's fucking someone special, I guess. But um yeah, so I'll probably pretty much always trade PM sessions. Um Loading the boat, fucking better not. Um how do you read Vega and Delta? My assumption is Delta shows where there, oh fuck, what happened?
Oh,
Where
my
there's
bad.
a long.
I replied to it.
Okay. Um Delta shows where there's long.
Delta, one thing I look for that you mentioned before with Delta, if you see any strikes above 100 on the Delta exposure, we it's pretty strong pull in that direction, not necessarily to that strike specifically, but in that direction, and not not too far out. You don't want to find anything that's like unreachable, but it's pretty. I've at least from my back testing, it's been pretty reliable that you'll see at least a pull towards that direction.
Yeah,
Mm.
another thing you kind of want to keep in mind is delta exposure is a sensitivity to changes in delta. Now that be it as it may, every exposure is tied to delta in some way, shape, or form. So if the underlying price moves significantly from where we're at now up until the 19th, that change in the underlying is going to affect how delta moves, or the delta of specific options. And in this case, it seems to be probably an in the money calls type of spread on the delta exposure chart, which can shift how much of that exposure is going to be sold off as we move up and vice versa if we move further down. So uh again, it's pretty hard to like uh make super estimated guess or super precise guesses this far in advance, but my idea here is rally into the 19th and then sell off afterwards based on what I'm presented with. Will it change between now and then? Maybe. Yeah, no problem, man. Again, Vega also is a change in it's a change in the options price to volatility, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but um which looks like most of that sensitivity is towards call options out of the money, I think. I'd have to see what the DDOI says tomorrow, but um that's kind of like, I guess, what I'm looking at. The skew to calls is flat as fuck. Yes. Yes, it is. Very flat indeed. Um, Fuck. How long did it take you guys to feel comfortable with your own trading style? Man, I am still uncomfortable.
Very, very uncomfortable.
Same, bro.
Nah, I've always been kind of like not, I don't know if comfortable is the word, but I've been okay with like um not having super accurate, like precise, oh, this is gonna fucking happen right now. I came from like so like obviously, right, I didn't initially start trading with naked options until later. And I was primarily trading with spreads and other like cross equity fucking types of strategies, which allows me to have a larger drawdown. So, um, when, Sheen's like, damn, that was a massive move. It was like 10 points or something. And I'm like, nah, that's not massive because my drawdown's still super fucking low or something. So, I'm able to, my strategies, I think, pan out most of the time because I'm able to, tough out, I guess, a large drawdown. So that's kind of my fucking what makes me comfortable. If you're comfortable fucking seeing red, then you're gonna most likely end up green most of the time. My fucking slogan.
Yeah,
So
I would just recommend buying some closer to the money strikes as well to get back a little extra on top.
yeah. So market sell off at 420? Fuck yeah. Um,
And yeah, Micah, honestly, like, while I'd say I'm decently comfortable, there's still so many times where, like, there's been days where I'll be messaging Geo and being like, dude, I don't know why this keeps working. I don't know how this keeps working, but fucking just run it up while it does, because they're gonna change something eventually.
but it's working.
Yeah. Like with how I use Vanna, right? I've tried to explain it to Gio 1,000 times. I think he kind of has a sense of it now. Definitely more than when I first started explaining it to him. But in the beginning, I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna make a Vanna cheat sheet, and it's gonna be dope, and blah blah blah." And then I made it and sent it to him. He was like, "Oh shit, you might be onto something." And then basically did the math behind it and was like, "Yeah, that's dead. Like half of this is completely right, and the other half is 100% wrong math wise."
Hell yeah.
So I was like, fuck. So I had to go back to the drawing board and went back to the drawing board. And I honestly still find myself, kind of utilizing that same strategy. But I think the biggest dependency is, when gamma is positive, like basically the different situations. When gamma is positive, van is neg. If gamma and van are both positive, if they're both negative, if van is positive, gamma is negative, that sort of a thing. So there are certain instances where it works better. But, you know, uh, uh, being, as Gio has kind of said, the comfortability, I think, comes. comes with being able to handle red, because not all your trades are gonna hit over 100%. You know, the second after you enter them. Generally speaking, they're gonna go at least a little bit red.
And if you're like me, most of the time they're gonna go red.
Yeah, well, not all of us have to worry about filling fucking massive size. So you like want your shit to go red a certain point so you can actually get the average cost that you truly want. 'Cause
Yeah.
Mhm.
otherwise you'd never get fucking filled.
Imagine having an average of 0.30 and averaging in since the contract was at like 2.0. That's fucking, that's baller. That's sick. Um,
Oh.
can you do a refresher class on price action and market structure with exposures? Yeah, man, I can give you a crash course right now. Hold up. Um, and you're gonna think this is mad dumb, but it's mad true. Hold on. Y'all ever heard of previous resistance as new support and previous support as new resistance?
Mhm.
That's the only price action you'll ever need to know. Hold on. Fuck. I'm just gonna make a drawing. I don't want to share my screen because I got a lot of fucking tabs open right now. Don't, and not like that, by the way. And not like that. Hold on.
Mhm. We believe you.
Whatever. Um, fucking here, I guess. Hold on. I'm not a I feel like I'm subconsciously a big price action guy, but not really. I don't know what it is about it. I feel like it's pretty easy to determine when you think market's going to go up and when you think market's going to go down. Maybe it's time in the game, whatever. So let's look at this on a 1 hour.
Sending it in Discord.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in Discord. Think it'll be easy to look back at. Is the video on? Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, we're online, bro. Um, humana. So here, so for example, if I wanted to enter short at some point in time, and then I'll make the little drawing. Now you're gonna think I'm fucking stupid, and you're gonna be like, Gio, I knew that. Then why not? Fuck, I don't have. Where's the? There it is. I got it. Never mind. Boom, boom.
He's not sharing the screen, guys. He's gonna post it on the Discord.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be better. Um, fucking here. Okay, now before you all crucify me for how simple this is, fucking think about it. Think about it for a second. If you were at that point of entry there, where this red arrow is at everyone, um, and you saw an absolute degex point underneath there, let's just shoot for an example here. Absolute degex at 5270 on there, 10 points below that entry, potential entry. That's probably gonna fucking hit. I'm not gonna lie. Is it because of the actual entry point? Probably not. It's probably due to the fact that the actual absolute degex point is pulling on price action there. But you don't need something super complicated to tell you when to enter. You just need to know like when is a good opportunity to enter here and not get fucked by a massive drawdown. Now, now you can crucify me for how dumb this looks. But yes, it's basically just previous support is new resistance, and then previous resistance is new support. You don't need anything fucking super complicated. Now I'm gonna delete this off my screen forever.
So are you telling me it's just all supply and demand and pineapple was right this whole
Shut
time?
the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. No, I posted it. I posted it in Discord, guys. If you're in the Discord, look at the main chat. Yes, yes, it looks dumb. Yes, you can make fun of me, but it's true. You don't need super special entry point. You just need a entry point.
You gotta put a cool name on it, like ICT.
What the fuck? This is the fucking Mike Hawk entry strategy. Um, uh, this is the super SMT. Super duper.
The suck my taint strat.
Yeah, wait, can you draw a zone above it? Yeah, I got you. I'll draw a little fucking box here. Hold on. Where's the
Yeah, replace
rec?
the red arrow with a pineapple too.
Shut up.
The reverse transmogrified fair value entry.
That's what I'm talking about. Um, boom. I'll make it red for you. Oh shit. The opacity's super low. Here you go, dude. And these are the legit bare basics of trading. The legit bare basics. This is what some furus charge $500 for.
500.
I don't know. I don't know the fucking going rates for uh entries would be based on higher time frames. No, not necessarily. It's just in this example, one that I'm using. Like if I'm trying to I guess it depends on the amount of points you're trying to capture, right? Anything on a lower time frame, you're going to capture less points. Anything on a higher time frame, you're probably going to capture more. Um, on the daily, something on the daily would just turn into a full macro trend most of the time. So, is that box of fair value? I have no clue. Um, no, it's just a point where we currently supported the market slightly and then immediately came back down. Um, and that's all it is. But, um, you don't have to use this type of strategy if you don't want to. I'm just saying it doesn't need to be super complicated is the main point here.
Keep it
Um,
simple, guys. Keep it simple.
yeah, man. I feel like everyone in this data space is trying to measure dicks. I'm trying to just make it as simple as possible for you guys to understand how to take a trade off of it. Um, yes. Any other uh I guess, questions. So basically the biggest thing that helps you guys at the end of the day is just experience into intuition. Um,
Not not exactly. I'm not a particularly that experienced. I've been trading for about to hit 3 years. I mean the most I learned was when I started learning the exposures. That's when I started getting comfortable with trading and feeling like I actually knew what I was doing.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's just experience and intuition because I always go with this example, right? This is the first example I told Sheen about when I had first met him. If you had a tool that told you where price would be at the end of the day, what would you do? Would you take calls? Would you take puts? Again, it's just depending where that price point is and where we currently are. The market can only end one of three ways at the end of the day. And if you know where that price point's going to be, whether it's under, over, or at, you know, the price point, then it's pretty straightforward on how to utilize that as an edge, I think. You don't even have to take naked options. You could take a spread. You can take a directional spread. You could do fucking a 2-day naked option to in the event that it does happen at the very end of the day and you are too afraid of it going to zero before that time. So, um, I think exposures can be, or specifically more so gamma exposure can be used on a lot of different types of systems. It's just like an additive thing. What time is end of the day for a play? When do you consider end of the day? End of the day is like the last hour of the day, but the setup time can take up to like 2 or 3 hours. So like anywhere starting from 10 to I'm talking, excuse me, I'm talking PST terms. Um Anywhere from like 10 to the end of the day, I think, or like which would be 1 our time. Um is like where I would start setting up for an end of the day position, I guess. Setting up is the key there, keyword. Setting up, not taking. Sometimes taking, depending on what I'm looking at, but setting up most of the time. Looking back at weeks of minute by minute SPX gamma exposures has been game changing for me. I'm glad that you see the light. Hell yeah. Hallelujah, brother. In Power Hour, do you do a at the money straddle or out the money straddle? What parameters are you checking? That's dependent on where directionally I think the market's gonna go. So if we're talking downside action, I'll probably go with an out of the money straddle, I think. If we're talking about directionally upside action, I think I'd go with an at the money straddle. And that's only because implied volatility increases significantly more for put options than it does call options, I think. I don't think. I think I know. But yeah, so direction, depending on directionality, that's kind of where I would begin to slot in at the money versus out the money straddle. Thanks for the answers, guys. All this stuff is starting to make so much more sense. Hell yeah, Mika. Hell yeah. Yeah, so that's the point of these lesson plans, dude. Make it make sense, make it easy, make it simple. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I'm probably gonna end the Zoom here soon. We're coming up on an hour, I think.
Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
So, if there are any other questions, feel free to ask now. Going once, going twice. What should I get for food, guys? Am I on ES now? Thank you all. Have a great night. You too, brother. You
You
too.
too, Monk.
Have a great night, guys.
Blaze Pizza. Get tacos? That's racist.
Blaze Pizza. Blaze Pizza is so mid, by the way.
Oh God. I'm just
But
kidding, guys.
I live in New York, so I
I was
mean,
about to say, not all of us
yeah,
can live in New
I
York.
know. You're right. You're right. You're right, man. You're right.
Bro, come on. Come on, guys. Let's not get food racist in here. What the? Pizza's pizza at the end of the day, guys.
It's Tuesday. You
Yo,
gotta give him
some
a pass.
Persian food
Tuesday.
sounds good. It is Tuesday. That's true.
Tuesday, man. You gotta give him a pass.
Right, all goes down the same hole.
All right, my daughter just walked in and said she wants me to hold her and go to bed. So,
All right, man, you better do
Aw.
that.
all right, peeps.
All
Have
right,
a
man. I'll
Later,
talk to you guys
Crispy.
later.
Night, Geo. Good night,
See
everybody.
ya.